Hello, my name is Henry Ernstberger, and I am currently one of the AmeriCorps environmental educators working at Severson Dells Nature Center. If you recall from my last video, I was talking about mycorrhizae, that is fungi that grow in symbiosis with plant roots. Today I'm going to be going into more detail about them because they're so fascinating. When most people think of fungi, they picture the cap and stalk of a mushroom like you see in the forest and in fairy tales. However, this is just one part of the fungal organism. The fungal organism also includes the underground parts known as hyphae. These hyphae are similar to plant roots in that they acquire nutrients for the fungi. With these hyphae, fungi acquire nutrients by breaking down organisms or other things in the environment. In fact, a lot of fungi are able to gain nutrients by breaking down the rocks and the dirt in which they grow. This ability of fungi to break down rocks was very useful when they first colonized land approximately 460 million years ago. Plants were also beginning to colonize land approximately 460 million years ago. Though they could produce their own food, they could not readily acquire nutrients from rocks and soil like fungi. So because of this, plants and fungi entered a partnership, a symbiosis. In exchange for the nutrients that the fungi got by breaking down the soil, the plants provided the fungi with sugars and other food. This symbiosis has lasted for over 400 million years and is why we have such a staggering diversity of plants and fungi today. This partnership was the first instance of mycorrhizae. In addition to the nutrient exchange between the plants and mycorrhizae, it is hard to overstate how complex these mycorrhizal networks can be. In a single gram of soil, there can be up to 30 meters of mycorrhizae wrapped around each other and the plant roots. This dramatically increases the effective surface area of the plant roots, allowing the plants to acquire far more nutrients and water than they could otherwise. With such a complex network, however, it is inevitable that the mycorrhizae of different plants begin to interact. And this is where mycorrhizae become even more fascinating. Imagine you're walking in a forest around here. Underneath your feet are the mycorrhizae of all the plants around you. These mycorrhizal networks of the different plants interact and intersect. This effectively forms a wood wide web. And using this wood wide web, the plants around you are able to communicate. This communication can be defensive, aggressive, or just sharing of nutrients. But all of this is mediated by the mycorrhizae. When plants are under attack either by a bug or a parasite, they produce compounds that effectively tell the rest of the plant to prepare for attack. Some of these compounds attract predators of the bugs, while others shore up the plant's defenses so they can more effectively fight the parasites. However, via the mycorrhizal network, this defensive response is shared between plants connected via this network. And so, a plant under attack by a parasite will produce compounds to prepare that plant for the parasite attack. These compounds also go along the mycorrhizal network and so tell other plants nearby to also prepare for attack by this parasite. You can see by interfering with the wood wide web, plants connected via it can be harmed. Some plants use this to their advantage. Garlic mustard, an invasive plant in the area, produces compounds that interfere with the development of plants around it. These compounds travel along the wood wide web, they travel along the mycorrhizal network, and impair the growth of the plants around it. This makes the environment better for the garlic mustard, but worse for everything else around the garlic mustard. With so many nutrients and sugars being passed along via the mycorrhizal network, you may be wondering, why don't the plants and mycorrhizae take advantage of this? Why don't the plants extract more nutrients via the mycorrhizae? Why don't the mycorrhizae extract more sugars from the plants they grow with? Well, this is because control of the mycorrhizal network is actually bidirectional. Since the mycorrhizae and plants have grown in this close association for hundreds of millions of years, they most benefit when both partners benefit equally. This prevents the mycorrhizae from sucking up all the sugars from the plants, and this prevents the plants from sucking up all the nutrients from the mycorrhizae. And remember that these plants and mycorrhizae don't operate in a vacuum. They are connected to all the plants around them via the Wood Wide Web. Nutrients are shuttled from areas of high concentration to low concentration in the Wood Wide Web, and older plants that have a more developed mycorrhizal network are able to share their nutrients with more plants around them, effectively giving the younger plants, the newer plants, a nutrient boost so they could also survive. In this way, you could think of an environment not just as a collection of individuals isolated from one another, but as a full-fledged ecological community. In the case of the Wood Wide Web, you could have an entire section of forest, an entire grove, respond to a threat that any one of those trees faces. And this is all mediated by this mycorrhizal connection, this mycorrhizal network. And all the organisms living in this grove, living in this forest, are dependent on that connection, on that Wood Wide Web. So the phrase that everything is connected is actually quite accurate. So, the next time you're in any of our forest preserves, I want you to remember the mycorrhizae, how important they are to what you're seeing and how important they are to the healthiness of the environment you're seeing. We like to think of ourselves as distinct from this environment, as if it's separate from us, but we're also part of the environment. And so remember the mycorrhizae and how their Wood Wide Web and their connections impact all of Earth and us as well. Thank you for listening and keep learning.